So I've got a slight problem. In less than a week from now, I'm going to be playing organ for a chapel service in this place on this instrument. Except the thing is, I'm not an organist. I work full-time as an accompanist at a private school in Melbourne. So I only play the piano. Just over a week ago, I found out that our regular organist is going to be away next week. I've always had this philosophy with music where if someone asks me to do something that I don't know how to do, I'll say yes and then figure out how to do it later. It's a pretty stressful approach at times, but it's caused me to learn a lot of cool skills over the years. So how hard can it be, right? I'm already a pianist. Well, there's two big problems or two big challenges with playing the organ. The first, obviously, is the pedals. And the other big challenge is thinking in three staves. So normally with piano music, you have the right hand and the left hand divided over two staves. But with organ music, you have to think in three staves, which is a whole other level of complexity. If I wanted to cheat, I would just use this button here, which connects the manuals to the pedals, effectively allowing you to play the pedal parts with just your hands. But where's the fun in that? I enjoy a good learning challenge, and I'm interested to see if I can actually do this, if I can actually learn some decent pedal technique and actually learn this instrument to a decent level in a very, very short period of time. So I mentioned that this is a new instrument for me, but that's actually not exactly true. When I was 13 years old, I learned the organ with a really good teacher for about 6 months. Back in those days, I only wanted to play two pieces: Bach's Toccata in D minor and Widor's Toccata. My teacher was trying to give me really pedagogically beneficial pieces to play, and I just was bored. I didn't want to play them. So the small amount of pedal technique that I developed back then is long gone. In the last week, I've had to go back right to the beginning and build my technique from the ground up. I've been using a book called The Organ Oxford Method, which is more than 50 years old. It explains everything in a very sequential and logical manner. And I've been reading every single word, and I've been playing every single note of every single exercise and basically trying to speed run this course as quickly as possible. I have to say though, in the short time that I've been back playing the organ, I've been loving it. I friggin' love this instrument. There's so many possibilities. I love the coordination required. You can create all these different sounds. It creates more sheer noise than any other instrument on earth. I do feel like I felt when I was 13 years old and playing this instrument for the first time. It's really fun to be back. But this time, I want to learn things properly with proper technique. Organ is an instrument that I would like to get really good at. One of the first exercises I did was this one. This one's slightly trickier. B flat, B, B flat, C. Now, something I'm focusing on this time round is being able to play the pedal part without looking at my feet. So what I've noticed very early on is that the black notes are much easier to find than the white notes. If you look at the notes from the side, the black notes obviously protrude up from the pedal board, which makes them easier to locate with your foot. If I want to locate a C without looking, I have to slide up to a C sharp and then slide down to a C. I have to slide down to an F sharp and then, hang on, wait, F sharp. Is that right? That is right. The hardest notes to find are A flat and A. So A flat is in the middle of a group of three black notes. So I find I'm also using my hands on the bench to move myself around a lot. Just physically getting around this contraption is quite challenging. For example, if I'm playing down here and I've got to play with the pedals all the way up here, you end up in these strange kind of shapes like this. And sometimes you're actually using the notes to push yourself around, which probably isn't very good for them, right? But I'm actually like hanging onto the notes and then pushing myself across. Right, you're probably not supposed to do that. With the pedals, you know, let's say I'm playing a D sharp You know, I might push off that note to swing myself around like this, right? I almost feel like I'm doing jiu-jitsu because I'm playing a black note here and then I'm pushing off that just like I would push off my opponent's hip or push off the ground if I'm trying to do some kind of sweep or arm bar or something. So I'm pushing off this and then swinging back. I've heard it said once that all musicians are crazy, but organists are the craziest. I can totally see why. This instrument is insane. I mean, just look at the amount of sound you can create. Then there's the interstellar chord. It's basically a C major with an A flat added. The price you pay for playing a wrong note with the organ is very, very high, particularly with the pedals. So if I'm playing, let's say, a B flat major chord, right? If I slip on the pedals, you know, now I'm playing Stravinsky. If you want to play legato, this is how you do it. I'll show you a couple of exercises that I've been working on. Not so good. Sometimes you even have to skip notes with one foot, and that's particularly difficult. So this one here. I'm probably going to have to buy some proper organ shoes at some point. One of the hardest things to do on the organ is play arpeggios. This goes under. Whoops. Probably got the feet crossing completely wrong. Here's some bark on the pedals. So finding that A flat, always a problem. Nah, I think that's enough practice for one day. Today I'm going to start with some basic pedaling exercises and then I'll have a look at the hymns. This next exercise looks simple, but it's actually quite difficult. I have to find a whole bunch of C's and F's without looking at my feet. And we're off to a great start. Let's try that again. No, I'm getting too impatient. Let's go through and work out the pedal part first. That was all right for a first go through, but again, a lot of work to do on this before the chapel service. Now I'm going to show you some bark that I'm working on. interesting is that compared to when I was 13 years old and learning organ for the first time, everything does feel easier. Independence of feet and hands is much, much better than it ever was as a teenager. I also think that studying opera, where I had to play a piano part and also sing a vocal part at the same time, has really helped me with the three-stave reading. I also have a much more methodical approach to learning, so I do things in a much more deliberate and careful way compared to when I was 13 and just wanted to play, some famous Bach piece. Now I'm inside the church where I'm actually going to be playing for this chapel service, and I have to get used to this new organ, so everything's different. The setup, the stops, the distance between the pedals, it's completely different. So even more so than being a pianist and having to switch between different pianos, when you're an organist, you're at the mercy of whatever instrument you're playing. One thing I have to get used to is the reverberation. There's a delay after I play. You have to play very cleanly because the reverb takes whatever you play and elongates it and makes it messier. Always easy to play wrong notes on this instrument, particularly when you suck. Over here there's a bunch of buttons labeled 1 all the way up to 16, and they are various arrangements of sounds arranged in order of ascending epicness. So here's 1, for example. It's very quiet. Here's 4. Here's 8. Here's 10. Here's 13. And here's 16. So behind me is the main organ in the church, and the organ that I'm playing on is the transept organ over here. They're both connected to each other, so that when I play here, some sound is coming out of these pipes and some sound is coming out of the main pipes at the back. So it's overall a very epic sound, almost like surround sound, 17th century surround sound. It's coming together. It's coming together. Even as a very experienced musician, I'm constantly finding myself practicing too quickly. It's been a challenge my whole life to just slow down and practice carefully, even as an adult. I haven't been able to practice organ for 3 days. It's interesting, sometimes when you take a break from practicing and come back, you're actually better. And that's what I'm finding today. I'm actually playing a lot quicker, and I'm finding the notes a lot quicker than a few days ago. So for sure, my brain has been working on things while I've been away. Unlike the piano, there's no way to play individual notes louder than the others. So to make an accent, you have to make the preceding note shorter to give the illusion of an accent. So you create accents through length of notes rather than sheer loudness of note. So for example, so that E flat wasn't any louder, but it sounded louder because the preceding notes were shorter. I have to play some notes longer than others, even with the same hand. So for example, like that. which is quite tricky. Otherwise, the melody doesn't come out. I also have this sneaky mirror, so I can see what's happening on the altar. I was about to say on the stage. Playing the melody on one keyboard and playing the chordal part on a different keyboard. Just finished a 2-hour practice session. A productive session, I think. Exhausting, and I think I'm dehydrated now. I'm surprisingly nervous. There's no problem with nerves as long as you channel them into better playing.
Please stand silently for the procession.
So I survived. After not touching the organ for well over 20 years, in the space of 2 weeks, I managed to achieve a sufficient level with the instrument to play for a major chapel service with hundreds of people in attendance. In particular, I achieved my goal of playing the bass line with the pedals and not having to rely on using my hands to play that part. I definitely would not call myself an organist yet, but I think I've made a pretty good start with learning the fundamentals of the instrument. After the service, a number of students and staff members told me that they really liked my playing and that it was more grandiose and bigger than what they were used to. I thought the service went okay, but there were two things that happened that really caught me off guard. The first was how different the organ sounded when I was playing in an empty church compared to how it sounded when there were 500 people in the church absorbing the sound but also singing. I had to adjust on the fly by choosing louder sound presets. The second thing that surprised me was the sheer number of wrong notes that I played. I mean, I was expecting to play some wrong notes with the pedals, but I actually played a lot of wrong notes with my fingers. Playing the organ is not the same as playing the piano. The keys are much more sensitive, and the slightest tap or the slightest knock with your arm and suddenly you're playing a really loud wrong note. So I'm going to have to think carefully about this and adjust my technique accordingly. Despite the challenges, this has been an overwhelmingly positive experience for me, and I'm inspired to continue learning and playing the organ. It's a huge privilege to work at a school that has access to a multi-million-dollar instrument like this one, and I'd be a fool not to take hold of this opportunity. There's a huge amount of amazing music written for the organ, and in particular, two of my favorite composers of all time, Johann Sebastian Bach and Olivier Messiaen, were themselves organists, and they each wrote some of the most amazing organ music ever written. So if I can learn the organ to an advanced level, it will open up a whole new world of musical possibilities for me. This journey over the last 2 weeks began when I was presented with an opportunity that I didn't have to take, and I wasn't ready to take, but that I chose to take anyway. I could have said, I'm sorry, I'm a pianist, I don't play the organ's not for me, you can't expect me to learn another instrument, blah, blah, blah. But I actually volunteered to do this because I could see how great an opportunity it was. And now that I've done a pretty good job with this opportunity, there's every chance that I'll have more opportunities like this in the future. So I hope that this video inspires you to say yes to something that you're not quite sure you're able to do, and to have faith in your own ability to figure it out. You might be surprised at what you can accomplish when there's a deadline, a specific goal, and a bit of pressure. And remember, every time you learn a new skill set, you get better at learning. And every time you take an opportunity, more opportunities come your way. So thanks for joining me on this journey. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.